Bitsivanu, La'aso,
Torah.
Okay. All right. Kat is sitting on my notes. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. I still haven't gotten her up, but she moved her tail. Now, just to let you know that this Torah study, excuse me, my Thursday evening posting on Facebook now is a podcast. I am a podcast. It's something I've always wanted to be. So in any event, now the posting that goes out on Facebook Thursday night is available on Spotify and Facebook and YouTube and so forth as a podcast. And if you think I know what I just said, you're wrong.
I was more impressed that Risa told us where it could be found on the podcast.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Sometimes she uses language that, I mean, it's very interesting. People understand her. I don't. But in any event, I now am able to do that. And if you ever want to listen to the Thursday evening, Friday morning posting in the car, or when you're taking a major exam or whatever it is, it's available on a podcast. So that's kind of fun. I got a note back from somebody already that to spend 2 paragraphs praising my technological expertise. Those of you who know me well know that is a vast exaggeration. Okay, but there it is. Now,
where are we today?
Are there any new people here, people who have not been with us over the past few weeks? Anybody? And Joseph, that's why I said that. I actually saw you pop up. Tell us who, unmute if you would, Joseph, and tell us who you are, where you are.
Okay. Yes, I'm in California. I'm a friend of Kevin Cohen. He invited me. I'd seen, he shared with me some of the things you discussed, and I was intrigued. So I looked, I asked him if I could join, and he said that would be all right.
Actually, he told me a great deal about you because the world is very small. And do you want to tell a little bit about you? Who are you? Your interests?
Well, I have a lot of interests in cryptography and mathematics and computer security, and that's where my crossover with Kevin is. He's off at a bar mitzvah today, so he couldn't join.
Yeah. I gave him his excuse. And from what I understand, you are a lover of Bible study, and you enjoy that.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
Okay, so we are really happy to welcome you. And if at the end of the day, there's no guarantee, you find this interesting, just send me your email at ravdavids, RAVDAVIDS @gmail, and I will put you on our mailing list just to keep you informed if there's a change or whatever. It's just a big contact list. So
great.
You're absolutely welcome, and that's good. And if you know something I don't know, please keep it to yourself. All right. Let's see. Oh, the only other thing to mention is that Friday morning I conducted Erev Shabbat services in Johannesburg again. And that meant that my Shabbos started 9 o'clock yesterday morning and will last till tonight. So that must be a violation of some biblical law. But in any event, it was a memorial service to commemorate Rabbi Richard Hirsch. Some of you are aware of Rabbi Hirsch, who was, by every conceivable definition, one of the greatest Jewish leaders of the second half of the 20th century in terms of within the Jewish community. And because I worked with Dick a lot, they wanted me to do the service. And so I reached out to a cantor from Wilshire Boulevard Temple. And we did a really fun service. Okay, tonight is Slichot, yes? Slichot. At Wilshire, I think the service starts at 7:15. I have that down, do check it. But it's going to be study and discussion and worship as well. And you know that Slichot is the real introduction to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. The music will be very familiar. You'll be into it, and it's part of a process that says, you can't just jump into Rosh Hashanah without hachana, without preparation. And Slichot is that preparation. The music begins to enter your soul, the words are familiar, and you begin to realize, oh my God, September 6th is Rosh Hashanah, what do we do now? And who has grandma's brisket recipe? Okay, so that's tonight's Slichot. September 3rd is the installation of a new board at Wilshire Boulevard Temple. For those of you who come from the University Synagogue community, at that time, 3 members of that community will be installed on the Wilshire board. That was part of the merger, and now this is happening. And it's a good faith thing. It's a nice thing. And in any event, it's happening on September 3rd. September 6th is Erev Rosh Hashanah. Checking in. Anyone have anything that they would like to share with us? Okay, Cindy.
Sisterhood is doing Sukkot on Sunday, September 26th. It's a little scary because we'll be inviting 2,700 women. And if even 5% come, we're going to have a lovely audience there. Rabbi Nanas will be doing the rituals. Cami Gordon will be talking about her book, and there'll be a lovely boxed lunch. It's going to be a women's Sukkot celebration. Hopefully the PR will go out this week. I know Hannah's working on it right now. Be $18 charge, and you could buy Cami's book that day.
You do know that Effie is staring at you now after you said a women's celebration. Did you see his face?
That was not my decision.
Oh, it's really exclusive.
I've been pushing for everybody's invited, but I got overruled this time.
Yeah, but I'm a member.
Yeah. Okay, Effie.
So is this in person, Cindy, an in-person Sukkot?
Person, vaccinated only. I don't know if you have to do proof or if it's going to be honor. It will be masked, except when you're eating. It will be, the reason we're doing it at the Irmis campus is their sukkah is open. It's just a canopy, while the university one is closed on the sides, and we just felt it'd be safer to have it at Irmis.
Super.
Thank you.
And
Do we have a time soon?
12:45, unless you're coming to help set up, which we'll talk about Wednesday at our meeting.
Okay, great.
That is super, excellent. Though I find it hard to believe we're talking about Sukkot and Slichot at the very same time. Okay, any things going on in your families? Anything you would want to share, can share? Please, yes, Diane.
I can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I have a question. I have the downloaded from the how to download the prayer books for high holidays, and it's too confusing for me. Does anybody? Will there be more instructions how to do the prayer book for the high holidays?
I really don't have an answer. I will pursue that.
Could you help me? Because it's a little bit over my head.
Okay, but what I know did happen last year is that through screen share, the prayer book was up on, visible.
Okay.
So, but I'm sorry, I don't have detail. I'm sorry. I will ask.
Thank you.
Anything else of concern? I see Jim Ruxin. Jim, you have something coming up? Nope. Okay. Fine. All right, Doris.
Yeah, speaking of books, Rabbi, Bob and I ordered these Mishkan Tefillah Reform Seder Week service books,
Yes.
and we were participating in the service last night, and they're totally different than the ones that they used. So I don't know if
That shouldn't be. If you actually, I don't believe that's so.
it is.
If
If
you
they said
notice-
turn to page 6 and we turned to page 6 and it was something other than what she was saying.
Did you notice that at the bottom of the page, it has numbers in parentheses? It has two sets of numbers.
Numbers in parentheses? You mean in the,
There are numbers in brackets because the bigger number is for the entire Shabbat weekday festival prayer book that came out. For synagogue use, there's an abbreviated version
oh,
which just has the Shabbat services in it. So, and they have a second numbering system with a reference to the numbers in the larger volume for people who are using that.
well, I didn't see, Steve, but I assume there was only the one book. Am I wrong?
There are two versions of it,
Oh,
but the book, I used it Friday morning in South Africa. The book is accurate in terms of the thing, but you have to know which system you're in. And the bottom numbers, if you don't see it in one number, look in the brackets, it'll be in the other. And that's just the easiest thing to handle.
I didn't see that, but I'll pay better attention.
Okay, it's my job, Doris, to bring illumination to the path.
Appreciate it. We did end up turning the pages to catch up, and we did finally catch up, but it was different anyway.
Okay, I got that. Anything else? Anything else going on? Happy? Super. Let's just dive right in. I'd like to go to page 1351 in the Plout, 1195 in the women's commentary, Deuteronomy 26, verse 15. Deuteronomy 26,
26,
verse 15.
26:15.
And we're not going to even discuss this. This is one verse before I really want to get started. But the verse is beautiful. It's an aesthetic thing. And I've encountered it a great deal in various prayer books. Look down from your holy abode, from heaven, and bless your people Israel and the soil you have given us, a land flowing with milk and honey, as you swore to our ancestors. Hashkifa mima'on kodshecha. Hashkifa. It look really well. Mima'on kodshecha. The image of God looking down and embracing the people. Bless this people, bless the land, fulfill your promise. It is a land filled with the milk and honey. There's no, we're on 26:15, Jim, 26:15. And I don't know if anyone has any comment on that. I was just planning to pass by it, but when I hit the phrase, it just, I just stopped. I find that a very lovely image, a lovely image. It's what I would call a beautiful invocation of God. And the point of the verse is, okay, folks, God has kept the divine promise. Now there's only one thing left to do. You have to keep your part of the bargain. And any comment on that? And if not, we will move on. Any comment at all? Okay, I love some strange things, but there it is. Okay, verse 16. Verse 16. Joseph, do you have a Bible with you? Oh, okay. All right. So I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and read verse 16.
Myself.
Pardon?
I may have a different version than you do, but in this version, the Lord your God commands you this day to follow these decrees and laws. Carefully observe them with all your heart and with all your soul.
Thank you. Thank you. So what do we see in here, folks? What is the teaching in verse 16? Do you see the semicolon? And that indicates a kind of parallelism. What do you see in that verse that is important for us? This is the end of Deuteronomy. This is the last day of Moses's life. This is the final speech that, it's kind of like the rabbi is finally retiring. He's got one last chance to deliver the message. And here it is, okay? What is Moses saying, Effie?
I think the important one is the last phrase, and do it with all your heart and soul. That you just don't do it blindly. You have to do his commandments, believing in them and doing in them with joy.
Okay, does anyone know the word kavanah? Kavanah, does that word sound familiar to anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone wanna hazard a Jim? You're muted. I don't know why. It doesn't even show mute. Now you're muted, but you were muted before. Try it again. No, I'm sorry. Okay, good. Your answer was wrong. Okay, kavanah is intentionality. Intentionality. Lechaven in Hebrew is to direct something in toward a target, toward something you want to emphasize. Kavanah is a very important term in Kabbalah, in Jewish mysticism. It is certainly a very important term in mainstream Jewish thought. There's a big difference between doing something and doing something with intentionality. Doing something because this is something you want, this is something you need, this is something you Yeah, okay, thank you. Tamara spelled it for us. Kavanah, lechaven, kavanah, intentionality. It's not enough to be rote. If you find yourself in your observance, whatever it is that is your observance, but you find yourself running on automatic, that's without kavanah. And this is why, for example, most services begin with a series of introductory songs, prayers. Kabbalat Shabbat is part of that as well. And what's the point? First of all, I love the music, right? The beginning is a Shalom Aleichem, and no, it's great. It's wonderful stuff. But there's actually a reason for it. The reason is so that you can direct your heart toward what you're doing. And so it's more than a warm-up, kavanah. God is saying to the Israelites, look, you know, I've been talking here for 5 books. You know that there are certain things expected of you, but don't do them by rote. You're lighting Shabbos candles, you're blessing matzah at the Seder, whatever it is that you're doing, do it with your commitment to meaning. Any thoughts on that? Any reflections? We're good? Kavanah. So the eternal God commands you this day, observe them, but don't just observe them. Observe them and do them with all your heart and with all your soul. Okay? Very often heart, in this case, Mara, I'll get you. That wasn't Harvey, it was Mara, right? Oh, you were just fixing.
It was, but I think I was going to ask what you're about to talk about, so.
Oh, ask the question then, because God forbid you should go home frustrated at 10 o'clock. What?
No, I was going to ask why heart is differentiated from soul and what the meaning of that is.
The heart in ancient times, even Talmudically, which is only 2,000 years ago, so it's not really ancient for me, is the seat of the intelligence, of thought, of it's the mind. And we know that's silly because the heart is the seat of love and emotion. No, it's not that either. But it's what people believe. So the soul would be much more of an emotional or spiritual part. The heart would be the thought part, the human being. Okay. I don't know who this person is, but I've just admitted iPhone. And if any of you know anyone named iPhone, say hi. Okay, that's great. So do that. It's up to us to deserve what we have. There is a conditionality in all of these biblical laws. People love to read, oh, the chosen people, God's chosen, this, that. We are a people especially attached to God. That's fabulous. But you should see the finger wagging. Yeah, you have a special relationship to God if you do and follow through. Deuteronomy especially is binary in this sense. You do blessings, you don't do curses. This is the way the world is. Your job is to do it right, and to do it with intentionality. Okay, we have to deserve it. Now, while preparing for this, which I do with great kavanah, while preparing, I came across a Ramban, a Nachmanides statement, and I want to share it with you. It's it really hits into what I believe. Ramban says, Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, accepted Torah, here comes Hebrew that I'll translate, B'ferusheha v'dikdu keha v'chidu sheha. Nachmanides, you remember already, is a mystical scholar, right? You have Maimonides, the rationalist, Nachmanides, the Kabbalist. The children of Israel, says Nachmanides, accepted Torah b'ferusheha v'dikdukeha v'chidu sheha. Really important. The children of Israel accepted the Torah b'ferusheha, perush, explanations, okay? With all, so the first statement is the children of Israel accepted Torah. Wait, not just the words in the text, okay? This is what Nachmanides is saying to us. They accepted Torah with their explanations, perusheha. The next one I like a lot, dikdukeha. It's little precise elements. I like it because dikduk is Hebrew for grammar. It's the little details. Nachmanides is saying when the Torah was given to Israel at Mount Sinai, whatever, all through the desert wandering, It wasn't just the Torah, if you will. What do we call the Torah that we see written on a manuscript? What do we call that? What do we call that?
Peshat.
But the Peshat, okay, but it's the written law. It's down there, right? It's what my notes always read, WL, the written law. What is there, Shachor Lavan, black on white, that's what we have. God gave us that. Oh, says Nachmanides. You don't get it. God gave the Torah along with its Perush, its explanations, along with its precise little details, this, that. You know, how do you know that a cow is really kosher? Well, you have to go look at the lungs to make sure they're glot. Any of you ever go to glot market? Ever go to glot on Pico Robertson? Anyone? I'm not getting any nods. Don't tell me you don't go to glot.
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. Because I love to go to the glot market and buy at the little section off to the side where they sell prepared foods, and I go crazy there. Fine. What does the word glot mean? Glot. It means, this is going to be really important. I don't want you ever to forget it. That the lungs of the kosher cow have been inspected to make sure they're smooth. Do you feel better knowing that? Okay, fine. So
does cloud only pertain to the cow? So
what it does, Susie, it raises the level of supervision of kashrut. You can have kosher, but if you have glot kosher, you're going to a place where everything is examined to the minutia. The example is the smooth lungs of a cow. Why am I pointing to my chest? The smooth lungs of a cow, but it really means everything is done precisely well. So there are supermarkets, for example, in Jerusalem, come the month before Passover, they cover over all of the produce, all of the boxes and cans and everything else. And then they put on the open shelves kosher lePesach, right? That leaves the non-Pesach food covered away, but present. That ain't glot. Do you see how it would be used? If you're going to have a really glot Passover market, that stuff is gone. It's removed and sold off. So there's a difference between levels of kashrut. Glot is a higher level. I mean, so it's more than just the smooth lungs. It really is a way of looking at everything. In any event, with its explanations, with its precise details, and this is the good word. The chidusheha. The root for chidusheha is chadash. Anyone know what chadash means?
No.
Chadash?
No.
No. Is that you, Howard? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Wait. What did Nachmanides just say? We are required to observe the Torah, but not just the written law, with its explanations, with its attention to little details, and all of the innovations that are introduced. Tell me why I'm excited by this. Why? Please don't chew my paper. No, little kitty. Now I got a claw on my finger because I took the paper from her. Okay. No, excuse me, I have to deal with a family problem. Don't you bite me. Okay. Now, where were we? Yes. Why is this of huge importance. This is not a small matter. This is big matter. Why? Why? Okay, is that Mara? Yes?
It makes the Torah a living Torah.
Changes.
And it enables us as we read to glean new understandings from what we're reading.
Beautiful. Yes. Anyone else want to come in with something? The beast has just settled on my Tanakh now. She's having a rough morning. I'm a Reformed Jew. Nachmanides was anything but a Reformed Jew. But look what he said. The Torah we have includes explanations, stuff about details, and any innovative materials that are taught along the way. Kaddish, chidush, anything new. That is what Torah was understood to be before you had ultra right-wing observant individuals who block any possibility of the word chidusheha, anything innovative. The fact of the matter is that accepting innovation was built into the DNA of rabbinic interpretation, and in the last 200 years, a major segment of the Jewish community radically changed how Torah is interpreted. And they will say, without, I'm being defensive, I'm sorry, they will say that, oh yeah, the radical change was the birth of Reform Judaism. And I would say the radical change is the strangulation of the growth edge of rabbinic interpretation. When we froze and said anything new is a violation. And I want to tell you that what I just said is a quote from an outstanding rabbinic scholar, ultra-Orthodox. Innovation is forbidden. Nachmanides, who is a pretty kosher Jew, a great, significant figure, he didn't have trouble with chidusheha. Steve.
What was the authority of the person who decided interpretation stops now? Obviously, they did not reject all of the Talmud or other new material up until that point.
Thank you. And I'm not going to be able to give a precise page and chapter, but I will tell you this. There is a long-standing rabbinic tradition that we're not as good as our predecessors. So that when they see themselves in the chain of rabbinic tradition, let's say this guy, late, the 19th century, early 20th, I no longer have the proximity to Sinai that our predecessors had. I do not stand ahead of them. I am less than them. Stop changing. We don't know enough. That's going to be one answer. Tamara, do you want to jump in on this?
Not on the rabbinic part, but I think the tradition is that it is the community or the educated the community who work out in rabbinic tradition, the halacha, which is why we have the Talmud. But what I wanted to mention is that Deuteronomy itself is a chidush. Moses himself models chidush when we have the second set of the Ten Commandments. Moses is not quoting what was said at Sinai about the Shabbat, that it is about creation, but he talks about the Shabbat as remembering the Exodus and remembering being slaves. So that's a chidush in the Torah of the Ten Commandments. So that the whole book of Deuteronomy is itself a biblical example of chidush. So the rabbis continue it in a more obvious way.
Thank you. Thank you. I just became very excited to get Ray just sent a heart, so he's happy. I was just very excited to come across this quote because in so many ways it offers an authorization of what we as non-Orthodox Jews attempt to do. I always have to throw this out, and I know that it's annoying. Chidusheha, the innovations, doesn't involve stuff that people do who don't know what they're talking about. Chidusheha requires study and knowledge. Okay? And Judaism really isn't a do-it-yourself tradition. You make innovation from within based on knowledge, based on commitment, and it then moves out. You know that I'm in the process of writing this chapter on Shabtai Tzvi, the Jewish messianic pretender, for the book I am now doing. And Shabtai Tzvi decided that Tisha B'Av would be a day of celebration because it was his birthday and he's the Messiah. Mara, you're shaking your head. I'm sorry. The guy's dead. You can't judge him. But he was doing it from within. He could be challenged. He was on what he did. But he was operating the levers of the halakhic machine. So not every chidush is a wonderful thing, but it has to be done with knowledge and understanding. So, folks, Penina.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think the diaspora, once Jews were scattered all over, gave birth to people who wrote books and gave interpretations. So the Torah will reach people who weren't necessarily in Israel or in Jerusalem. It was written with people that were living and trying to teach the Torah to Jews all over the world. And each generation gave birth to a person or more than one that were trying to spread the word all over. And the way the books were accepted and the way people heard about it and learned from it actually gave the perushim, the translations, in a way that people, and the explanations to the people wherever they were, in a way that they could understand it and relate to it. So that's where the innovation came, that people wrote books. When I lived in Cleveland and I was teaching at Silver Temple, Rabbi Dan, who was Abba Hillel Silver's son, they wrote another Siddur and they took out the sentence next year in Jerusalem out of it because he wanted people to feel that they don't have to be necessarily in Israel or in Jerusalem to be a Jew. And I didn't like it because I was I was born in Israel, and I thought that the sentence gave hope to people for independence and self-reliance. And it wasn't just this place. Jerusalem was not just a place. It was a way of life and kind of like something to look forward for independence and being who you are as a Jew, no matter where you are. But Jerusalem was kind of like the hope of reaching perfection or validation. So
okay, so we have that, and that. By the way, I want to throw something in. Dan Silver, Rabbi Daniel Silver, son of Rabbi Abba Hillel Silver, was then the senior rabbi of the temple. By the way, that's a name that Reformed Jews often gave to their synagogues. The temple. I worship at the temple. What you have to understand means, well, you had Solomon's temple, and now there's the temple. It's the replacement. Pretty arrogant, and I loved it. Okay.
Yes.
So, but Abba Hillel Silver was offered the presidency of Israel.
Exactly.
And he refused it because he didn't understand why, being the first president of Israel, he still had to live there. He said, okay, I'll move from Cleveland to New York, but that's as far as I'm going.
Right. It was also offered to Einstein, and Einstein said no.
And he
I'm not a politician, I'm a scientist.
Okay, but so you have Abba Hillel Silver saying, oh, you want me to be president of Israel. And you have his son taking next year in Jerusalem.
Exactly.
So talk about family dynamics. On we go. Okay. Now, why did it take Moses 40 years, according to the rabbis, to finish up Deuteronomy? The Torah was given at Mount Sinai. Anyone? Really important question. Why did it take Moses 40 years? What was Moses doing? You know, he ran a gift shop next to the ark. I mean, what did he do? Steve?
He was preparing kind of a roadmap for how the people, once he's gone, will conduct themselves in society when they reach the promised land.
Indeed. Indeed. According to the way the rabbis themselves looked at that question, and they raised the question, no, Moshe, 40 years, you're still talking in Deuteronomy about giving laws? You know, it all happened at Sinai. No. Moses, according to the rabbis, got much at Sinai, but God continued the process of revelation to Moses through the 40 years. And Moses then was giving it to the people piecemeal, section by section. And what you have now is Moses is finishing up the delivery. At times, Moses would go to the ark of the tent of meeting, and God would descend and say, okay, Moses, sit down. I got another 2 chapters to give you, whatever it was. And Moses then would teach to the people. The rabbis say that not only was God slowly delivering all the rest of Revelation in the desert wandering, God was also delivering the interpretations. To put it simply, Moses got the written law and the oral law during the wilderness wandering. Now, if this reminds you, Brad isn't here today, of certain Greek philosophers who said that it's not new learning. We are relearning what we originally knew. The rabbis said Moses had the written law and all of the interpretations, and the rabbis who did all this decision-making in the Talmud, they were only restating what God originally intended. So that gave them absolute authority. They were delivering through their deliberations what God told Moses was the authentic interpretation. Okay? You have to understand what we are sharing now is totally fundamental to how traditional Jews understand the growth of Torah and of Jewish law. I pause for a deep breath. The cat no longer is attacking me. Any questions? Any questions? But it is really important to get this picture. And I would suggest to you that most Jews don't know this. It's not known, but it's mainstream traditional Jewish teaching. Howard. As soon as you find your mouse, you're going to be fine. There.
Okay, so I had learned a slightly different thing, which was that everything that is in the extended concept of the Torah, which includes all kinds of commentaries and the Talmud and so on, all was taught at Sinai. Not that it was delivered 40 years later. Is that the same idea, or how does that work? Where'd you go?
Thank you for raising that. Even though I speak with absolute authority, I don't speak with all the details. Sure, there are those who say that it all was delivered at Sinai. And there are those who say that during the 40 years wandering in the Ohel Moed, the tabernacle, Moses got the ongoing revelation. Yes.
Okay.
There's something else in this wonderful phrase from Ramban. The children of Israel accepted Torah, Befeirusheha with its explanations, V'dikdukeha with its precise details, V'chidusheha with its innovations. Let's go back a step. Dikdukeha. When the rabbis speak about Dikdukeha details, they are saying to all of you on this Zoom, it is not sufficient to be generally observant. You must do the details, the dikdukeha. And you get a commentator, Sforno, who looks at the same phrase and says to us, and this is not pleasant, if you generally observe Torah, but don't observe Torah b'dikdukeha in its precise details, you stand ready to lose everything. Sforno looked at this phrase and looked at this understanding and looked at our verse and said, I'm going to use a contemporary idiom. I'm not sure that Sforno used this. It's a roll of the dice. You do the best you can, but if you fail to observe Judaism, Jewish law in its details, you could be toast. That's a mixed metaphor, roll the dice and toast. Okay. That is a very intense variation from where Nachmanides was. Nachmanides talks about a growing and expansive Torah, and Sforno says, do what you want, folks, but boy, you better observe the details. Comments about that? How do you feel about that? Anything that strikes you? To me, what we're looking at today is fundamental to how traditional Judaism approach study. Now, Mara, Harvey, did I miss a hand? Harvey,
Can you define details? What does he mean by details?
let's see, as far as I understand, you're a man who is very much into accountancy and having things very precise and on black and white. So let me try. I'm sorry. I'm not wrong, right? Okay. So when does Shabbos begin?
Sundown on Friday.
Not sundown.
20 minutes before sundown.
When you drive into Jerusalem, there's a big sign, a big electronic sign that says, this week, Shabbat begins, and it puts the time in. So you're coming into Jerusalem, you damn well better know when Shabbos starts. Okay? Fine. Shabbos starts not when we're ready. Shabbos starts at a precise time. And Harvey, when does Shabbat end? What's the tradition? When does Shabbat end?
20 minutes after
3 stars.
sundown.
Oh, Cindy?
3 stars.
3 stars. 3 stars available in the sky. That's when Shabbat ends. Even though you're allowed to delay Havdalah until Wednesday, if you're really frantic. But Shabbat ends. That's a detail. Tell me about the knife. I hope not to offend any vegans here. The knife that you're using to shecht, to slaughter a kosher cow. Tell me about that knife.
Has to be sharp so the animal doesn't suffer.
And smooth. It can't be serrated.
It can't be serrated. It can't have any nick in the blade. A nick in the blade, you use it to slaughter an animal, that animal is not kosher. Detail. I want to come up with another detail. I don't want it all to be, I don't know. Brad?
Well, I want to get back to the innovation and expansiveness of the Torah. Has that led in the course of these last centuries to one additional mitzvot being added to the 613?
So glad you asked. You know what the rule is in this class, right? You are only allowed to ask questions to which I know the answer. Okay, now, Hanukkah. Do you know the Hanukkah candle blessing? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Hanukkah, right? Pray to you, eternal God, King of the universe, sanctified us by your commandments and commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. Where is that? Where does God command? It's not. And yet, it's written. The blessing says, thank you, God, for having commanded us to light the Hanukkah candles, but nowhere in Torah, by the way. That's because Hanukkah was about 200 years after this Torah thing was finished, but there's no reference to Hanukkah. There is a mitzvah, but they have 2 kinds of mitzvot. There's mitzvah d'oraita, which is an Aramaic way of saying Torah-based commandments, 613. And they have d'Rabbanan, mitzvah, rabbinic mitzvah. So there are 613 Torah mitzvot. There are thousands of rabbinic mitzvot. Does that address what you're saying? In other words, the purity of Torah commandments can't be expanded, but there are other mitzvot They just happen to be midrabanan and not midoraita. They're rabbinic and they're not Torah, but they're still commandments. And there is a hierarchy that Torah trumps rabbinic. You can understand that.
Is there a list of those somewhere?
You're saying yes, Tamara, and I don't know, a list?
Well, not so much a list, but a collection, the Shulchan Aruch, which is a compilation of all the laws, is in a sense an attempt to catalog the whole collection from the vast Talmud. And that was 16th century, 1600.
Yeah, but you see, I backed away because following Harvey's approach, I wanted to have the detail correct. I don't know if there's ever a list of the things. Shulchan Aruch is a collection of all the midrabanan laws that came forward to the 16th century, and it still grows. Today, it still grows. So you can't pick up a book and, oh, mitzvah 1322 is, no, that doesn't exist. But if I did that, I'd be world famous. Yes, Howard.
I heard that there are actually several compilations, but it's really hard to come up with exactly 613. It doesn't quite add up. I don't know.
That's a lie and a falsehood. And that anti-Semitic canard.
Sorry, I don't have the exact reference. I have to, so maybe.
You're right. You're right. But please don't mention that in public. We have, there are 613 mitzvot, but those who count them differently. But miraculously, they all stop at 613. But yes, you're right. Mara.
I have a question, and I'm not sure if I can express it very well, but we've been talking about kavanah and we've been talking about details. And as I prepare for the High Holy Days, what comes into my mind, especially given the differences between Orthodox and Reform interpretation, what comes into my mind is how exactly I truly know what is commanded and forbidden, and thus what is the blessing and what is the curse.
I could do the easy thing saying we're out of time, we have to do Kaddish now, and that's over. So come back next year when we get to this portion, we'll address that. Or, Mara, I know you. And I know that your preparation seeks kavanah always. I assert that to be a truth. The word halacha is from lalechet, right? How we walk, how we go, it's our path. And we're all on a path, and at times we all stumble. But if the intention is to do what's right, that is your best security, separating blessing and curse. You are trying to do, your intention is to do that which is correct, is really, however you do it poetically, what does God require of us? What does God require? To do everything precisely correctly is impossible. To intend to try, that's within reach. May I leave that with you? I mean, that's the best I can do. We have to break one sentence, Penina, but we have to break.
Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. That's what the whole idea is. Tzedek, 3 words. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. And that will give the kavanah and the halacha a purpose. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I mean, yeah, we could go on maybe a month on that topic, but Mara, kavanah, and you certainly from your study of Musar, kavanah. We're going to do Kaddish now, and I'm going to mention, by the way, don't forget Slichot tonight. Mention those who have passed away during the past month. And at the end, I'm going to include those who were murdered in Afghanistan in our concern. Earl Cohn, Joan Levine Eichberg, Edith Fisher, Joyce Friedman, Edward Gelb, Sandra Geller, Jean Grossman, Robert Hazlett, Howard Levison, Jeanette Peskin, George Paness Jr., Virginia Sandler, Jessica Allison Schroeder, Andrea Stanford, Jean Whitney, Mimi Wolfen, Alvin Sapersky. And the Yortzites, the anniversaries of whose death occurred during this past week: Milton Abrams, Deborah Agam, Robert Alexander, Yaakov Aloni, Lawrence Altman, Axel Anderson, Ibrahim Araji, Alan Baker, Abraham Barmon, Stephen Bartmasser, Bertha Bernstein, Leslie Bloom, June Blumkin, Need Brody, Corinne Cohen, Marilyn Cohan, Sidney Diamond, Jerry Edelman, Diane Rose Fenning, Reva Fields, Joseph Fogarty, Sam Foreman, Milton Fox, Ruth First, Harold Garber, Leon Ginsberg, Harry Goldstein, Belle Gomberg, Maxwell Alexander Gray, Howard Halpern, Margaret Herskovitz, Danny Inkelis, Adele Israel Zales, Moses Israel, Sybil Israel, Joseph Jacobson, Milton Kaplan, Tony Karp, Albert Katz, Walter Keane, Leah Lask, Beatrice Lawrence, Carrie Levitt, Lorraine Lowy, Rosalind Lyon, Saul Merenberg, Lou Markman, Betty Miller, Shirley Orenstein, Nancy Tompkins Overland, Herta Roberts, Marilyn Roberts, Ann Wesley Ralston, A. Victor Rosenfeld, Alvin Rosenthal, J. Armand Roth, Alvin Saltzman, Sheldon Sanders, Gloria Schall, Bertram Schwimmer, Morris Shapiro, Barata Soroti, Hyman Tannen, Brandon Tartikoff, Sue Temple, Mildred Union, Dorothy Irma Weinberger, Sheldon Zane. I would add the name of Rabbi Richard G. Hirsch. We are in the Shloshim for Rabbi Hirsch. I would add as well all of those who were murdered barbarously in Afghanistan during this past week. We cry for a world that is unable to escape its own brutality. And we pray for the time when human beings will not find religious satisfaction in the destruction of human beings. Does anyone have any other name to add? Thank you for joining us. Merle, I've never even said hello to you today. Hi, Merle. To join together in Kaddish. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah. V'almad divrach yirutei, v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala, v'bizman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mavona, v'olam le'olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudishah, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'miran bi'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim, Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'imru, Amen.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom V'imramav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'imru, Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat
everybody.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
much.
Come back again, Joseph. Come back again, Joseph.
Personal invitation. Okay, very good. Shabbat Shalom, and
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
we'll be zooming side by side. Harold, bye-bye. We'll be zooming side by side tonight for Slichot about 7:15. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.